Welcome back everyone to the second episode of what we are now calling Ripping It Out. Um, so, we did not do a good job of introducing this channel to our listeners and viewers the first time around. I think I'll take the opportunity now to do that and then continue speaking about the topic that we would like to discuss. Uh, so, basically, riffing it out, or what we mean by riffing is uh, to basically improvise on the conversation while we go about it. The only thing about the conversation that is pre-decided right now is the topic. Apart from that, Rohit and I, we don't discuss what we've read. We simply kind of build our thoughts around it and try and read about it and join this Zoom call and simply record the conversation because what we felt is that even before we started doing this, Rohit and I end up having a lot of interesting conversations. At least we find it interesting, and we think that everyone may have something to take from it, and that is the reason now we do it in this way and upload it on YouTube. So obviously, the hope from our side is that you guys enjoy this conversation and we received a lot of good and bad feedback from the first episode, and we'll try and obviously work around it through the coming episodes. But yes, it will be great if you guys continue to tune in and kind of let us know how you think about it. Uh, Good. Do you have anything to say?
No, I think you summed it up pretty nicely. I mean, the idea is we are very selfish people, and we are trying to do something where we end up learning more than what we uh, what we do right now on any topic, and we don't want to limit ourselves to any particular genre or a stream that we are going to discuss. We'll keep asking our listeners to share what they want us to discuss also, and the idea is to improve on what we know or get to know something new which we didn't realize we was there. So yeah, I mean, let's hope we are able to do that.
Exactly. I think it's great, at least for the both of us, that we get to learn something new at the end of every topic. And uh, by the medium of this video, we also get to impart what we've learned to our listeners. And I think that is kind of our primary motive behind doing this. So I think, yeah, I guess that's about it. I'll kind of try and introduce what we are speaking about today. We talk about uh, criticism and how the two of us kind of deal with it, what role it's played in our life, how we think the role of criticism is going to change in the current generation, and we would yeah I probably that is what at least I would like to talk about, unless and I'm sure Rohit will have something in his mind. But and what I can assure you is that Rohit, this is the first time Rohit is just hearing about this, about what I wanted to speak about today. So I think I'll start Rohit, and why don't you uh, tell me about what has your relation with criticism been through your life? So, if I'm not wrong, you've been a student for all your life and then a working professional for the last 5 years. And obviously, you being in finance, our learning curves are extremely steep. And when you have such a steep learning curve, you obviously don't do everything right in the first go. So just what do you think about it? Criticism in your life?
So yeah, I don't know where I read it or where I heard this quote that criticism can make or break a person. I don't know where I heard it or read it, or maybe I wrote it. I don't know. I mean, I just saw it on my Facebook wall, one of the stories. So yeah, I believe in that. I mean, I do believe that criticism can actually make or break a person, and it for me, it for me personally, it depends on from whom I'm getting that criticism. If I regard or I consider that person certainly higher up in my view, that his feedback is important to me. If he is criticizing me on something, then I do take it seriously. Otherwise, like it's for me, I have filtered it out. Uh, but I feel in today's time there is this view that uh, you can't keep criticizing a person. Like I said, it can break a person also. But I feel continuously praising someone also has its counter effects. I was reading somewhere that there is a law of sort of mean reversion. There was this HBR article which talked about, like, as a manager, or I mean, it was taking an example of a corporate life. So as a manager, when you see your employee performing really bad and you criticize it, you will see his performance improves afterwards. And when you keep praising your employee, you will see his performance sort of falls below that standard afterwards. So they argue that it's just mean reversion. Nobody can be at their best on daily basis. It's not that your criticism had any sort of major impact in driving that. It's a very natural phenomena that we are performing at our best one day, then maybe not at our best second day. It's just that it happens after that praise or criticism, and yet you relate it to that particular criticism or praise. For me, personally, I've experienced few criticisms in my professional life. I don't think so. Personal life is something to be worried too much. I mean, but in professional life, if I see, I have had experience of criticism. But luckily for me, I've got those criticism, not just, I won't say that as a criticism, but a constructive criticism where I was not criticized for my mistakes or for my wrongdoings, but I was told that this is not the right way. You should have done it like this. And it has come in that way that, I didn't feel that he was sort of belittling me, which has helped me to improve on those aspects. Right? I mean, there is a way to communicate rather than saying you did this wrong. If you say to your junior that this is not the correct way to do it, I'll show you this is the right way. I feel these are two similar things. I mean, the message is very same, that you are telling him that you have done a wrong thing, but the way you communicate makes a whole lot of difference. So I have had very good experiences with criticism. Like, it helped me improve. I've never been, maybe I've not been criticized that heavily on anything, but I've been criticized on my work, on my ethics, something or the other. But those criticisms have helped me to improve on those aspects, because those were, I mean, you don't want yes people all around you, right? You want someone to tell you are doing something wrong. And it's good that you get that early in your life, because what happens is, if you keep doing that thing after 10 years, it becomes a part of you. 10 years is a long time. Even if for you keep doing, it's like habit formation. Like, you don't need to tell yourself how to brush your teeth, because you have, that habit has been ingrained in your head. So if your the way you approach things, or the way you react or criticize someone has not been corrected, then it will remain that way for a longer time. What like to ask, what are your views on criticism, and how have been your experiences with
Yeah,
this?
that's right. So I have somehow, I don't know why, but somehow I've always been open to the idea of feedback. Okay. So not necessarily criticism, but I've generally been open to the idea of feedback. And obviously, I mean, I don't say that it's like I imbibe or I inculcate everything that I hear back from others. I mean, obviously, you need to be able to understand what you need to filter out and what you need to actually, uh, include in your, and what you need to kind of change, right? So at least the one thing is that I've always been open to people telling me stuff and being okay with it. And then when you are actually open to feedback, you can actually hear back a range of stuff. and it's obviously from like absolute crap, very bad, to this is great, this is good, all of that, right? So so it's also I think it's also a skill to kind of take this with a pinch of salt, the good parts, and also the bad parts. You know what to kind of ignore and what to actually take into consideration. So as far as criticism is concerned, I think I've mostly been okay with it, and I think I mostly agree with you that till the point it's not someone snapping at you because of what you've done. I think you should generally be okay with the idea, or at least I've generally been okay with the idea of someone criticizing what I've done before, and working on it and learning from it. And uh, fortunately, in both my personal and professional life, I've had colleagues, bosses, juniors, etc., who've been very generous with their feedback and with the criticism, which has mostly been constructive, right? And then probably that is what helps you. That is what helps you grow. But I can also kind of in my life also think of incidents, say which where people have snapped at me, and I was just when you were speaking, I was just thinking uh, about this fact that when someone snaps at you, your most natural reaction is to either ignore them or to snap back at them, right? Because and you it won't matter uh, what they're saying and how important it is, but it's just that tone in which they said, in which they put you down, uh, that kind of that takes the driving seat, and then uh, you just want to kind of yeah, forget all of that, and then I think uh, in that uh, I say in that moment, uh, you don't find. I mean, you don't think that you are wrong or you something needs to be improved. I mean, everything just takes a backseat. So I think that is my kind of. I mean, that's the only place where I don't get along pretty well with people who snap at me. But other than that, yeah, probably I've always been open to feedback and hence always and because of that, mostly always been open to criticism. And I think it's always it's good, right? I mean, you generally most of us have a one-track mind, and then you want someone to come and tell you like, hey, you can also do it like this, or this is the way you can improve. And I think if you're not open to that kind of stuff, I think you kind of stagnate very early, be it in your personal life or be it in your professional life. Criticism also helps me stay grounded in the fact that hey, I don't know everything yet. So I think that is also one way in which it helps me, and but especially obviously when it's coming from someone who is like much more experienced than you or much more senior to you. You always it's a daily kind of a reminder that hey, you need to be better, you need to know more. And I'm not saying that you chase more, but I'm saying that your growth trajectory shouldn't stagnate. Like that's the key takeaway from me. It's not the speed, but it's the direction in which you're going, right? So probably that has somewhat been my relation with criticism. The only probably, I mean, the only thing is that I, as far as if someone is senior to me, uh, or if someone is known to be more respectable or more knowledgeable, I kind of still try and draw my own assessment about them before taking their inputs. So it's not that by default I will listen to someone and just like inculcate what they're saying. But I always like I try and always assess, hey, I mean, how do I want to take this? Uh, so I think that is probably one active filter that I always apply. But yeah, other than that, but I mean, the only thing that I would like to say is that yeah, I mean, it's like super important that you keep your mind open to any kind of criticism, right? And then filter. I mean, you shouldn't be the kind of person that says that I'm not willing to listen to anything that you're trying to say, right? You shouldn't be that kind of a person. So I think yeah, that is like the key. That is like the takeaway for me from this. Yeah.
To add on one thing that you were saying, if someone is snapping at you or not, uh, maybe not giving you proper feedback, but expecting you to excel at something, but you are not communicating or not helping you in any way. So I've experienced that. So for me, what it did was I felt disconnected with my work, even though I mean, prior to that experience, I used to love what I do, and I still love what I do. But for for a considerable amount of time in that interim period, I used to hate to go to office, and I created a silo in my mind. Sort of, I interacted with that person only and only when there was a work. I never interacted with that person, any, hi, hello, or personal chat, because I felt so disconnected with that person. So yeah, I feel uh, only criticizing but not showing why you are criticizing makes no sense to me. I am not open to that. If you are criticizing me, I am okay. If my work is shitty, you communicating it, it's a good thing for me, obviously. But you need to tell me why. Uh, that's why constructive feedback or constructive criticism is very important, not just criticizing anyone here and there. So, because I feel somewhere it is important also, because otherwise sort of self-serving bias एक आ जाता है mind में कि if because your manager is of that view, that he manager or whatever your boss is not criticizing you, so you feel everything is right because I was doing it right. Okay, now something is wrong, so you are not open to it if you are not being given relevant feedbacks. And like in 5 years of my work experience, I've never been given any kind of negative feedback, and suddenly someone says something, so I will be like, yeah, there was something wrong with the, maybe PowerPoint was not working, or something with your printer, that ink was, I mean, something or the other. But I will not be ready to take that blame, because my mind has been wired to not accept it at all, because I've been not given that kind of feedback. And I think for the younger generation also, it's important you, because we are, I mean, I can't say we are making education that easy, but uh, not letting people fail. I'm not saying that they should fail, but not letting them fail has created that kind of imaginary world where they are not ready to fail now, because they feel they have their birthright to these things. And when that first failure happens, it hits them real hard, and then that mental pressure kicks in, and that they are not ready to face it. I feel that happens to a lot of younger people right now, because their brains have been wired to that notion that you can't fail, which is not true. Which is not true. I think you do fail or succeed each and every day. I mean, if I have set up a task to complete this, if I don't succeed it, I know fail is a very harsh word, but yeah, I've not completed it. So I have sort of failed. I've not succeeded it. So yeah, I think that is also very important in my view.
This is good. So 2 points. One is that, I mean, how it's kind of profound how you say, how you talk about results as criticizing your, I mean, I've never thought about it that way. That probably, I mean, you always think of criticism in either your workplace or in a personal life. You don't think of criticism in school or as a student, right? But your results
Yeah.
are a sort of, I mean, yeah, they are just like another way of criticizing what you need to improve upon, and obviously, I mean, given our education system and given how we are graded and everything, of course it's not like the best way to do it, but I still kind of, if you think about it in a practical manner, I think it's great how you mention failing in school or not doing well in school as a way of criticism. I think that's something that I'm thinking about the first time. The other thing is about, yeah, I mean, again, uh, you come across any sort of verbal feedback only once you are out of this education system, right? uh, at least for me, now that I think about it, your teacher what your teacher is going to tell you is very different from what your teacher is going to tell to your parents. And and that comes to you again in kind of a third Chinese whispers language. Your parents are going to say something completely different to you because their idea of you is different from what your teacher's idea of you is. And I think now this is also very interesting where, as compared to this in the workplace, you're directly listening to it from your peer or from your boss.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to receiving direct feedback or direct criticism from someone who you're not close to, like your parents, I think that also could make a huge amount of difference. But to add on, I mean, to kind of take your point of children not being used to uh, being criticized because they have uh, a lot of like their early school life like to given to them in a ready platter because they're just going to pass till a certain standard. I also kind of I'll take it like one notch up and uh, think of uh, today's probably I mean or that generation who are teenagers in today's time who are uh, uh, basically ferocious consumers of social media who upload stuff on Instagram and Snapchat day in and day out. And the only feedback that they receive on Instagram, say for example, is positive feedback or is largely validation. Okay. Unless you're on Twitter and you will be ripped apart into pieces. But if you're on Instagram, which say a college student is more likely to be on Instagram and uploading reels or uploading some posts or some stories or something like that. Or if you're on Snapchat, you're doing streaks and all of that, and you're just getting very positive sort of validation from all of these actions. And
And
then
that too instantly.
exactly, absolutely, yeah. In like the next few minutes, you have hundreds of likes on your post or hundreds of reactions on your reels. But cut to basically you now come out of college and you are at your workplace where things are not this fast, obviously, where things are a lot uh, more high stakes than they are on social media, and you are accountable to someone, uh, and you are, I mean, obviously. Uh, you have obviously at the beginning of your career you kind of always have some scope of making mistakes, but that scope keeps on reducing as you keep on progressing ahead. And obviously, once you join a workplace, it's obvious that you will make mistakes, you will face certain amount of criticism from whoever it is. And I mean, you will only be lucky if you have a kind boss who gives you constructive feedback or criticism rather than just snapping at you. Otherwise, if you're not blessed with such kind of a boss, he or she will simply probably snap at you. And yeah, and you've not experienced that ever before. And I think the way probably students are coming out of school, then coming out of college into the workplace, if not for all of them, for many of them, I think the dynamics of the workplace will be kind of it'll be a culture shock or a culture change, a big culture shift for them. And if you look at it from this criticism point of view, I think it'll become very difficult for some students to adjust with this kind of feedback, which is not positive always and which is not always instant and which is a lot more nuanced, right? Because it's not one like or something like that, right? It's going to come to you in more than one word. Sometimes it'll be sharp, sometimes it'll come to you in a mail where you won't be able to understand the tone of the message, and we've experienced all of this. What you mentioned about experiencing at your workplace, it's not unique. All of us go through this, right? All of us have gone through this, go through this, and we live with it on a daily basis. Uh, yeah, I mean, probably I hope that social media doesn't kind of spoil our capacity to receive feedback which is not in line with our expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, I guess. Yeah, it's true to some extent. Yeah, that uh, we have become so accustomed to those positive feedbacks. But I feel I mean, we can't just say that a student passing from his master's or from an MBA doesn't is sort of not ready for the corporate
Yeah,
daily
so
lifestyle. I
I
mean,
was I was thinking much more on the bachelor's. I mean, till you're a teenager, not
okay, yeah, yeah,
till you're a
then yeah,
teenager.
bachelor's, yeah, yeah, true. So anyway, that's I think after bachelor, if you are going to work, I feel it you should definitely. I feel I've made that mistake. I didn't do that, but I think you should for 2 to 3 years. Then you get to know that you get to know a lot of things, how you need to react in front of other people, what are basic ethics that you are supposed to do, what is work, what is your daily schedule, how to take a record of things, how to respond, writing mails, responding to those things. uh, because if you do that, then probably you are in a much better position when you rejoin the workforce after completing your masters. But on that part, that I feel एक ये जो point था, that some of us are lucky that we have bosses or superiors who do give us feedback or constructive criticism. I feel it also depends on you as a person who is receiving that, because sometimes, I mean, I'm not saying that it always is the case. There could be that your boss or your superior is not giving you that feedback, but I feel sometimes it is there initially, that he's trying to give you something, some feedback, but the way you react to it, because first impression is the last impression, that kind of thing. If how you react to it initially gives them that idea that you are not open for it, and they sort of make this image of you that this guy won't work until unless I will do that, until unless I snap him, or until unless I say some bad words in front of others, or I insult him in front of his colleague. And that uh, sort of escalates your mental fatigue. Uh, and social media, coming back on that social media thing, I mean, how can you tackle it? I guess there has to be a button where you dislike a picture or what. I don't know, man. I don't think so that can happen, because then your Instagram people won't be using it. There is so much negativity around that people want something, some sort of positive from these uploading some pictures, or building a community online which sort of thinks like you, follows things which you follow, and wants to talk about things which you like to talk about. So it's a good thing or bad thing. I think it depends on your usage, your exposure, and how much time you're spending on that particular thing. Twitter definitely is a whole game, a different game. All right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how to tackle it, but
Yeah.
I guess it's no, continue, continue.
So Twitter. I mean, my understanding with Twitter is that uh, people are not going to listen to you on Twitter, right? Their main motive on being on Twitter is to answer back. And if you take that same situation in a real life incident where you are the recipient of criticism, as you rightly said, it really depends on how you react. And I think over the years, what I've kind of understood is that there is a very fine line between answering back and being firm about where you know why you've done something and being able to explain it to the other person. Uh, and at the same time, admitting that, okay, this was wrong and I will improve over here. I think over the years, kind of, I've tried to do that a lot more rather than simply coming across as answering back at everything possible, right? Because obviously, I mean, when you do something and when you uh, put your hours into it, uh, you've done it with some sort of mindset. And when someone comes and says that, hey, this is not great, or something like that, you'll obviously, I mean, you are going to be a little upset about it. So the idea is to internalize this feedback or criticism, as you would like to put it, and be okay with it. That's the first thing to do, I guess, to be okay with receiving criticism. And then the next step is to either react to it at that spot or actually thinking about working on it or deciding to ignore it completely because it's not going to help you. And I think that third thing is only going to come after you are actually able to internalize any amount of it. If you can take something, if you can take basically, if you can take a punch, only then will you know that is it okay to give a punch back, right? Otherwise, you'll only keep on giving punches till someone really comes and punches you. Then you will know how you're going to react to it. So I think it's very important that yeah, I think we learn to, and obviously, I mean, even today, even after being aware of all of this, I still snap at some people. When I'm told something, and it's a function of hundreds of things, of my mood, of how much effort I've put into something, of how much good I think that outcome has been, etc., etc., all of that, right? But yeah, I think it's right. The first thing is to kind of yeah, just internalize it and think about it. Okay, was it really that bad? Do I need to fend myself? And obviously, if you've done something with 100% research, if you can back it, yeah, why not? You must defend it. But uh, yeah, I think there should be a lot more, I guess, openness to to receiving it. Twitter does not give you that openness. Twitter asks you to keep on punching back, and I think that's the worst bit. And I think Instagram and Snapchat are on the other end of the spectrum, where everyone's just giving love to each other all the time. And then the criticism, or it's not criticism, I think, yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of celebs sharing DMs, but I don't think that's criticism. That's just abuse. Uh, yeah, but it's really important. I think the more I think about it, and I may be digressing a little bit, but it's just like two separate worlds, our real life and social media. And the more time you spend on social media, the more disillusioned you become about the real world and what actually matters and what doesn't matter. And I hope that also fucks a little bit with our with how much criticism we can take, right?
It changes our view about the world or about things in general. And on the way you were saying, how much or uh, taking punches, and then so I feel the less you react, the farther you can go in life. I mean, the ability to not react on each and everything that has been said to you can take you to places.
That's very important.
I mean, responding or answering back is is the easiest fucking thing in the world. कोई भी कर सकता है, कोई भी. But accepting what listening to the argument, internalizing it, understanding where that person is coming from, and then responding with an appropriate answer is a different thing altogether. So, I mean, it is. I genuinely believe, like, as I've grown older, I've realized that it holds true in your personal life also. The less you react, the better it is. Because reacting to each and everything is not healthy. Is not at all healthy. And I think that's what social media does to you. Because you get that instant dopamine effect when you react or when you interact, but in real life it doesn't happen like that. Things take time. Situations are not going on in a structured or a scripted way. uh, so you need to be ready with that, and sort of social media does create some sort of you can say it's not very healthy, but again, I mean, it's up to you. You need to define those boundaries. Uh,
So it's an important point that you make about how one should react to criticism. Now, probably let us put ourselves in the shoes of our seniors, or say 10 years down the line when you will be leading a team, or there will be people who would be reporting to you. And now you would be obviously much better at your work, and you will have people who will be making mistakes. So I think from the point of giving feedback or criticism, what do you think that you will change from what is happening to you right now?
So, we right now the kind of feedback I'm getting, I don't want to change much in that. But as a senior or as someone who is leading a team who has few juniors working under him, if I want to give someone or tell someone that they have committed some sort of a mistake, which I don't want them to repeat, I will like to have a conversation because I feel it's very important to know why that has happened. Sometimes, as I think during our discussion, you mentioned that a lot depends on your mood, the kind of day you are having, the kind of things are happening at in your personal life. So I have seen someone was facing some personal issue and it was impacting his work. So I feel it's important to know why something is happening, because I feel you if if I look at it as a team, if the entire team is motivated towards something, then it becomes very easy to convince someone or to tell someone that what is going wrong, because the ultimate goal or what you guys are trying to achieve is that same goal or something which you are all aiming for. So it becomes relatively easy. So yeah, I feel I would like to have a conversation and try to understand why this is happening, and rather than just telling that, oh, dude, what the fuck are you doing, I'll probably be like, maybe this is the right way, or if you can do this like that, and why I'm saying this is wrong, or why you should do it in this particular manner. I think I'll skew towards more towards that direction.
Mm. So I think for me, it is first important to ascertain that the person is putting in their best effort, right? Or generally puts in their best effort. Or if, I mean, yeah, I think that's the first important thing to ascertain. Uh, and then you know that yes, everyone has bad days because of things that are outside of their control, etc. And to give them space to recover from those bad days and just be back them for their abilities, right? Despite of them making mistakes, right? And then obviously, I mean, we have been in tricky situations where we have bad days that coincide with deadlines, and those situations. Just think of our seniors who are in those situations where the onus to deliver is on them, and the onus to kind of drive the project is on them, and we are merely in support roles. And the direct accountability is not on us. Obviously, it reflects on our performance, but the direct accountability is not on us. And I think it'll be super tricky to kind of manage uh, uh, deadlines or expectations that come out of work uh, with a team that consists of people who have feelings, who have I mean, who are not. I mean, no one's perfect. So I think yeah, that's kind of it's like quite quite tricky.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy job to uh, bring business or manage deadlines, and at the same time make sure that the team that is working with you or the people who are working with you are also working in the right frame of mind and are doing the best that they can do. Bringing out best from people is not an easy job. So that will be something that we will be aiming for, I guess.
But I think as a manager, I think 10 years down the line, I think uh, we to kind of directly extrapolate from what I said about social media and all of that, what you said about schools and what I said about social media. I think it'll be a lot more, uh, in some cases, a lot more trickier, I guess. I mean, you know, if we talk about our own experiences, I mean, in bachelor's, you're not. I mean, once you what I'm trying to say is that master's environment, the kind of master's environment we've been, uh, or even a top tier, basically a full-time residence program, right? Of 2 years, where you're completely on your own. I think that really, I think it polishes you to a certain extent, it hardens you to a certain extent. But I think people who directly come from undergrad college are still far more idealistic than practical or realistic. And then I think that gap is it's a larger gap to fill between where they come from and where how we work. And I guess for them, and now I think going forward in time with the amount of validation that students receive on social media day in and day out, uh, as in when they are in their teens again, to kind of clarify, not after that, but like when they're in their teens. Uh, I think yeah, I think it'll be a larger gap to bridge, and I think also, I mean, as managers, yeah, we'll have to be a little more cognizant of this fact uh, to understand who is where, and to also kind of, I mean, obviously it's like a balancing trick between getting work done while making sure that your employee is uh, you know happy or sane while doing that work, but not at the cost of work, right? So I think that is a very it's a very tricky situation that yeah that we'll face probably a few years down the line. Well, when we'll have teams to manage. I mean, every manager went through it during COVID, right? Uh, because
Yeah.
everyone was burnt out. I mean, yeah, even I think including managers and stuff, I think everyone was burnt out at some point in time. Especially if you were in India, I think you were burnt out. Uh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure nothing of the scale of COVID will happen again in our hopefully in our lives. But I'm sure everyone has their own stories and all of that. So I think yeah, it's going to be like quite subjective and quite tricky about what is going to happen. But yeah, it'll be a learning experience for us as well, I guess, to be able to yeah put that faith in us juniors that was put in us while we were juniors, and yeah, to get the best out of our team, I guess. Yeah, that will be the challenge that we'll face as managers. So yeah, that's about it.
One thing on that, on the hostel life, I don't. I mean, it not always harden us or makes us very solid, because I feel it it gives you a freedom, and
Mhm.
with that freedom comes a responsibility, and that with responsibility comes a choice, and
Mhm.
then that choice decides what kind of person you become, which is true for the criticism as well. Kind of choices you take,
Mhm.
whether you want to just snap or criticize someone, or whether you want to communicate why you are criticizing. So that's important, I think. I do agree that right now, I mean, I've also faced it, though I have not been manager for so long, but still, yeah, I mean, it becomes difficult because the kind of expectations from you are different, and then you do manage people below you as well. So you need to understand them, and you need to understand what you are expected to deliver, and then communicate that in a very plain language or very simple language to the person who is working below you. Because I think the way, the simpler the communication is, I feel the quality of work does improve. I mean, I don't know if it holds true in all the cases, but I feel, at least for me, I have experienced that the what is expected from me is communicated to me very clearly. Then I know,
What to do.
then I work in a better or a more efficient way, rather than just because I feel then the interests are aligned and you know what you guys are aiming for. And then it becomes a little easier to maintain timelines or deadlines, and and stay sane and happy as well while achieving those deadlines.
So because you said quality of work, do you think uh, do you think that lack of feedback or lack of criticism on social media in your growing years uh, will mean that uh, the, the same mean reversion thing that you talk about, that for a long time that mean reversion is not going to happen because you don't have any criticism to bring it back, and then obviously the very obvious question of how are you going to face criticism the first time, and how is that going to change your outlook towards your work life or life in general, right? Uh, I think I think beginning quality, obviously, I mean it's obviously it's an output, it's a function of your skill as well. There's no doubt about that. But also the attitude with which you approach a project kind of changes the output of that project, right? How I mean, if you can or cannot do it in a wholesome manner, rather than just doing it for the sake of doing it. Basically, we bring ourselves to the table. I mean, your job and my job is not unique to us. A lot of people do the kind of work we are doing, but still we are different from others. And I think uh, this your attitude towards others' feedback is also what will shape your work in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean the quality of work does improve as you continue to work on that. But I mean the kind of work you do is repetitive. Situation changes, but the documentation aspect remains the same. So obviously, if I look back at my first so-called presentation decks or the documents I prepared, they were really shitty. And I look at and I now realize how my manager responded to it and what kind of feedback he or she gave me. And it has helped me to. So what happens is when you keep working on such texts or when you continue to work on these things and you take on those feedbacks, improve, I mean, you become, maybe you can call, you become smart about it. You become a bit efficient, that you figure out very quickly that how you can do it in a more efficient way, spend less time on it, and yet be able to make the same or that bold statement very visible, with a little less effort that you must be putting in when you were first
That's right.
you started doing that kind of work.
And I think
So yeah, I mean,
with time, what happens is that when you speak about your first deck or your first presentation, the important question to ask is, were you happy with that presentation? And mostly the answer is yes, right? Because you think you've done, if not a great job, you've done a decent job with it. But now
because you have done, आपने वो कर दिया जो आपको पता था,
correct,
जितना आपकी नॉलेज थी, you have done it.
correct. And now you are aware enough or mature enough to call your own shit out, right? If you've done something which is so, you know you've done something which is so, and you know this can be improved in a certain manner. And I think, yeah, the criticism that we've received over the years from everyone has kind of helped us evolve, right? And I think that is the important bit, right? That journey of being able to call out your own shit when it is actually crappy. I think that is very important. When you know that it can be taken a few notches higher, right?
Yeah, that's the hallmark of genuinely a person who has grown,
Right.
or has shown progress. Yeah, I mean, there's no other way around it. You can't be living in a bubble that whatever you do is right, and if something bad goes, then maybe uh, luck was not in favor. You can't just keep
Yeah.
saying that kind of shit. Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. So to conclude, I guess I think, yeah, both of us agree that yeah, I think it's really important that we keep our minds open, right? Keep our minds and our heart open to other people criticizing us, and to take it in our stride, and to, yeah, to be able to two things. I think call out what is important, what isn't, um, and next is to to actually imbibe it and inculcate it without having any bad or having any bad feelings about it, right? I mean, if the ultimate goal is to improve, I think improvement can come from an external stimulus as well, right? So I think criticism is that important external stimulus that may drive some uh, decent change in us, right?
Yeah, completely agree. Uh, I think, yeah, that sums up our discussion.
Cool. I think, yeah. was interesting. So I guess thanks everyone for listening in, and we'll see you in the next topic. Uh, Let us know in the comments what you think about criticism, how it has impacted you, and also we are open to topic suggestions. So feel free to put them in the comment section as well. And thank you, and bye.